Today, we are thrilled to introduce a visionary guest who has consistently driven innovation and growth in the tech business, Amit Kumar Singh. Amit is a dynamic leader with over 15 years of global experience in SaaS, e-commerce, Fintech, AI, ML, and blockchain. As the co-founder and board director of Maventech Labs, Amit has spearheaded the development of groundbreaking solutions in travel tech, logistics, and fleet management, scaling the company to impressive heights. Currently, he's working on an exciting stealth mode AI and blockchain-powered personal finance platform, Amifi, which promises to revolutionize wealth management. His journey is a testament to his expertise in product innovation, OKR-driven strategy, and building high-performance teams. Amit's leadership philosophy, inspired by Kant's moral theory, emphasizes ethical decision-making and empowering people to achieve exceptional results. His career highlights include key roles at Lazada, where he played a vital part of its growth before its acquisition by Alibaba, and UBS Investment Bank, where he developed fintech solutions. Amit's credentials include an MBA from the prestigious IESA Business School, several accolades and certifications in cutting-edge fields like blockchain and AI. His innovative mindset and entrepreneurial spirit have also earned him recognition, including meeting the late President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Get ready to be inspired as Amit shares his journey in science and vision for the future of technology and personal finance.
So kind of you. I think it summarizes my professional journey so far. I think lots of personal journey which people or your listener may not know, but maybe during the course of thing I'll touch upon them, which saves me. But yeah, that very well summarizes who I am.
Welcome to this episode. Happy that you are here. And I would like to understand more what moment in your life defined who you are.
So when I see and if I have to answer that, I'll say there's not one particular moment which defines who I am. It's like combination of different experiences, and most of those experiences that challenged me. Let me just share in chronological order, like from very start, what things which actually made me think and made me who I am. So if I go really back in my childhood days when growing up. Um the first instance come from my father resignation as an electrical engineer. He was into electrical engineering in mining field. Now you coming from Brazil, you know how the mining field operates and all, right? And he decided to resign, and the question was why, and the answer is simple: he didn't like the corruption and the corrupt practices which were prevalent in the mining industry. So what he did was he chose the values above his career. That was very early on when I realized that when you are actually morally and ethically right, even if it may not be easy for you, it's always worth it in long run, to stand up for your moral and ethical beliefs. Uh, Another moment which I can touch upon is my near to death experience. So during my senior school days, I was in a place called Ranchi. It's in a state called Jharkhand in India, and I was there to appear for an engineering entrance exam. And out of blue, there was a riot which broke out, and I nearly actually, was saved being shot dead in police firing and crossfiring and all. And that was the time, kind of shook me, but made me realize that the how life was fragile, and it was kind of wake up call for me that one should always live life as if that if it has to end today, you should be satisfied about what you lived as, right? That was the time when my career also hasn't started. I was just a school student going for an engineering entrance exam, and it could have ended. And would I have been satisfied that day? I felt no. But then I realized that, okay, I need to ensure that every day when I live, I have to give my best so that if it has to come and whenever it comes, I should be satisfied. Okay, the life was worth living it, and whatever I could do, and I have done. Um, if you actually see, and I'll try to draw a parallel. So when we were in schools, it was also when the internet technology and all started revolutionizing the world. I think in 90s the Amazon was still not Amazon which we knew about. Facebook was not there at all. It came much later in 2000s, and you had still those social media platforms. People who will be oldies will remember, like MySpace or Orkut, which people used to go to, right? And they were interesting platforms. Um, so as I was also growing, and when I decided engineering and I chose biomedical engineering, because I came from background of sciences where I was pretty much strong both in biology and mathematics, and I wanted to choose a field which was at the intersection of the engineering and medicine, and that made sense for me. But then as I grew into biomedical engineering, my life also, I never thought that I'll be into software engineering, building internet technology products. Uh, I was going towards research. But then, as this whole thing was happening, these global moments in technology, Facebook coming up, social media exploding, things like that, made me curious enough. And even when I was doing my own engineering, when I was getting into designing those medical devices and all, I realized the software part of it, and and that grew on me, right? So that also started influencing me how I saw my career shaping up. I saw the potential of software when it came to medical device imaging, the immense potential, what how it was touching life, improving life. It was not that much into hardware, but how things were being interpreted, right? And that was the software, the brain behind most of these devices. So that was, say, the global, the global technology advancement, how it actually was influencing. If we fast forward the recent thing which we are just talking about, the COVID-19, I think it touched everyone. Um, I was already leading my company called Mantis, and we were in bus ticketing software as you introduced. So the whole travel economy was hit by COVID-19. There was no travel, so our revenue went directly to zero. We were looking at literally shutting down, right? Uh, it was tough. So it was tough. There were like lots of jobs at stake. And what happened during that time, that I was flying from Qatar to Bombay, and I was stuck here. So I was stuck because there were all these international travel restrictions, and I, being more of a globetrotter, I used to travel between Qatar, where my wife was, a pilot, and I was living with her, and Bangalore, which is the tech hub in India, where my company was headquartered. I was stuck here for those COVID time, almost a year, and you have like to handle not only your own family on your own comfort, but all these lives at stake. um, all that hard work which we put during that time, I restructured company, I founded the Maventech labs which we talked about. uh, we tried to save as many jobs which we can, which resulted into saving 63 jobs, which was not all jobs, but then I take a lot of pride in saving those jobs at least, which we could, in spite of me going, without salary, without all these comforts. But that experience was lesson in, resilience, how you have to adapt when you're a leader under pressure, how you have to keep, other people' interest before yours at times when you're leading companies, right? Um, and last, which is the most recent, and I think briefly we touched when we were earlier talking, comes from my personal life. So when my young daughter was born with congenital heart disease, that shook me up, and the whole journey through a treatment, it was challenging, but in the end, it was also rewarding, and a fight for recovery taught me a very important lesson. So till now, I was like very workaholic, but then I realized that there's something much more important than work. There has to be a a balance between work and life priorities. Every time I see at my daughter smiling on small stuff, even if it is a routine exercise, you realize that how we have uh, lost appreciating small successes in our life, right? Small things in our life, and that actually I'll summarize that is a change which has happened over last 1 year in my life. It's the most recent change where I've started appreciating life more, enjoying life more, little moments more, even with teams, even small successes, small releases, small this thing, which is not that significant. It may not have a revenue impact, but then you celebrate because express the joy, the happiness, and brings people together. Yeah. So, so as I said, like there cannot be one moment which defines me, and I'm sure there will be more moments which will come as long as I live, which will keep defining me. But that's who we are. We are actually built on that. The only thing which happens is your foundational value system gets set early in your childhood days, as I said. So when I was seeing and growing up, you see and look upon your father, your mother, your teachers, right? And your value system forms. Uh, and then with all these experiences, you keep on, adding layers on it. So yeah, I don't know what future has in store, but I'm sure that will also add, new dimensions to my own personality in a positive way. But yeah, that is the answer which I'll have for you. So there's no one moment, but all these moments makes me who I am.
Thank you. And you mentioned very, I would say, very remarkable points here. In terms of technology, we are talking, for example, like Yorkut MySpace was the very beginning of social networks. And if I'm
Right.
not mistaken, Yorkut lasts longer exactly because of Brazil and India, because was where they have the biggest amount of users, while Facebook was taking over the world. But somehow
Right.
people enjoy it beyond Yorkut and Orkut. About
I still
COVID.
remember during awkward days, I used to be one of the influencer. I was still in college, and I was considered already an influencer because I used to write a lot. I used to write, even I write now. Also, you may be seeing I write lots of articles, and I used to write. And there's another thing which I used to write is poetry. There was a whole fan following, page on me on poetry which I used to write there. So the thing which I missed about Orkut is that when that transition happened and Orkut died, and Facebook finally entered Brazil and India, and that right, like we were the last countries which were still with Orkut. Uh, but yeah, uh, that is how it is. Life changes, things changes, uh, technology changes.
Yes, another thing you also mentioned that it did affect really a lot of people was exactly during COVID-19. It
Yeah.
was really fast.
Hmm.
It break and damage a lot of families. So I'm happy that your family was and is still healthy and fine since that time, because it did strike very hard other families in many countries, including Europe, where
Right.
mostly the elders they pass away. And in this case, you get stuck, as you mentioned, and we also had quarantine and other protocols that we need to follow to keep safety, which was important. And your, the lesson, the one you share with us, is extremely important. That is about these moments that you have to adapt. Is not an option. Is something you have to do, and it's important to be flexible.
Correct. And that is where the whole thing is also there. Like when you're leading a company, it's obviously there were family and friends who were actually, getting stuck by COVID. No fault of theirs, but that is what was happening around the world. And you're hearing these, horrifying stories where families were destroyed, right? Young families where, the only earning member died and all. And then you are leading the company where you have like 200, 300 people. So you basically are actually engaged with 200, 300 employees and their families are looking upon you, and you are in the sector which has completely gone to zero, because travel is restricted, so there is no revenue as such. Your company is, we are earning a little bit on our subscription revenue, but we are more on SaaS transactions, which actually is celebrated in startup world. That if you're like SaaS transactional based business model or revenue model, they celebrate. But then that also, actually no one saw it, and that also told us that at times when you are actually in comfort, right, there are events like this can really shake it up, because you start taking things for granted, certain business models for granted. And that is the time when we started innovating on, and we came up with a cargo logistics module, because still medicines, the logistics, the food, even if people were quarantined or locked behind, needs to be transported. And we realized that yes, the travel was being restricted, but the transportation of goods were not. And we had an ERP software which was being used by for transporting people. So we have to pivot very quickly, get into logistics, build that thing from the MVP and all, and see how we can modify our own product, and build a version of for cargo logistics industry. That is what we did. We restructured the company. We created a completely new company. We created set of four companies. We divided the technology company. We made it a completely separate entity, which I ended up being the CEO of, and I started leading that company. And then there was a distribution company which was only focusing on distributing these inventories which we are generating through these ERP softwares, working with this 2,000 odd logistics provider and bus transportation companies. While we also supported this industry a lot, so when things started becoming better, uh, there was still this waves, right? So there was like this lockdown was removed and then it was closed, so the buses and all will start running, and then obviously still people were like cautioned to maintain that healthy distance and all those things. So COVID policy was very important. You were working with different people, be it state governments, the local authorities, the national authorities. Then these bus operators needed to be guided on what the regulations are. The end consumers were needed to be made aware of, of what the protocols were if when they were traveling. Now, how safe travel was possible, because it was the responsibility of people like us to bring the trust back into travel industry. And we were big in bus travel. So just to give you an idea, in India, you will have around 10,000 small and big bus operators. We were already working that time with 2,000 of them, right? So you had already 20% of bus market, and if you think of 10,000, only half of them are digitized. So we were already like 40% of the bus market at that time in India. So we're quite large when it hit us. But yeah, means it, as I said, it taught me a lot of things. The most important thing is that you have to be resilient. You cannot give up. You need to find solutions, which you are not trained for it. There's no academic course which you can go and get it to get training on this, right? So you have to actually use your common sense. You have to use your compassion. You have to use your basic humanity at times, to solve these kinds of problems. And that is what I think is sometimes when things are going good, people start ignoring them, but those are very important. So I'm happy to be part of that, where we help bus transporters to to restart their business back, bring that trust in the bus travel in between those waves, right? All these different seating arrangements where people can have safe distance while sitting into a bus travel, because bus travel again is a closed environment and COVID could spread, right? So there were changes which were need to be done in the product itself, which has to be quickly done, has to be released. The stakeholders has to be brought in, be it government, local authorities, the health authorities, and all. And then passengers need to be made aware of what safeguards you have put in place so that they are safe. So all those things, yeah. Along with obviously you are trying to save jobs of so many people who are looking on you, right, during that time, and being away from your own family with all that background going on in your own family, long relatives listening to all those bad news and negative news. I still remember when when they released the restrictions, international restriction, I tried to fly down. There was this mandatory quarantine which you have to undergo, and you have to be closed in a hotel room, right? Nothing to do. And no one will imagine like we were like prisoners, right? You say that people go to Delhi, the whole countries were in jail. How you keep yourself, how you keep your sanity, right? I started working out a lot during that time. Started doing hit, and whenever I used to feel like little down, I'll do that. uh, Lost like 20 kgs. People gain weight, but I was losing weight that time. I was the healthiest of myself during that time. So yeah, some good things on personal side also in those times.
Yes, and something that come up from that time, which we learned because, as you mentioned, we take for granted, we do not notice when things are going well, was exactly about our mental health, right? That was pretty much affected by too many constraints and along with the fear of the whole situation, because we was talking about a deadly disease airborne.
Correct. I remember when it stuck first time, and my wife is in aviation. So you imagine that both of us were hit by that. So her whole flights have stopped, and I was into this bus travel, software technology business. So we both were stuck in our own ways. He was stuck in Qatar. I was stuck here. But then when the initial phase also started, I think it started a year earlier when the initial reports from China started coming back, and I was already we were talking, right? So I started like that time, gargling a lot and all those things because you were scared, like you don't want to get caught into this, and you don't know what is, because there's no cure for that, all those things, especially when you're more aware. And me being coming from like medical background, like engineering come medical background, I was kind of more aware of the kind of virus which we are dealing with, and with all the history. And luckily I'll say that, and kudos to all the researchers who were able to actually bring the vaccine in record time. If you see, lots of viruses, lots of diseases are still not cured. So we are very lucky actually that we were able to find vaccines which were effective, which helped finally stop that, and help world become again a free place. I think India played a very good role, and I really admired that time the leadership which we saw in India. We had lots of death, but lots of Indian vaccines were pretty effective in controlling what happened. Given our population, it could have been much worse. But the way the government was criticized during that time. Obviously, the poor people faced a lot of hardship during those times, especially people who have to go out and work, people in construction, people in supplies, logistics, and they were suddenly housemates and all were losing their jobs. Right, so it was crazy. It was crazy actually those times. But I think it taught everyone, and if you have survived that, we all carry some good learnings from those days. So it's good actually, which has happened. This is like a century kind of a event which happened. I think the last one which hit was 1920s when America was hit with all this economic crisis along with that Spanish flu which was there combined with that. So yeah, we were lucky actually. I'll say we are lucky to have survived that. So
Indeed. And what has been your greatest struggle and how did you overcome it?
so I think I mentioned some of the struggles when I was actually mentioning what shaped me. But if I were to generalize, I'll say it's like the greatest challenges are like when you have to prove your own worth, right? and odds are stacked against you, right? So whether it is like excelling, if I go in childhood time, India is very competitive when it comes to academics and also whether it is like excelling during each class or each year in your academic this thing, right? Year after year, exams after exams, or when I was growing up and once I grew up and I joined the work, navigating through workplaces dominated by people coming from privileges or loss of regionalism, factionalism, which used to be there in workplaces. When you come from a lower middle class background and you don't have a head start, you learn that success isn't about competing with people who are coming with those things. It's more about competing with yourself and become better of yourself. That is the only way you can actually climb and you can, prove your worth. So normally, basically, whenever I face those challenges, I try to, stay focused uh, on my value system. I try to improve every day. I don't look into big milestones for myself when you are in this thing. As I said recently, I have started enjoying small victories, which may not be even you may say, hey, what is the impact? But then yes, uh, that helps because that brings the positivity in you, and that will actually ensure the bigger milestone which will come if you are actually into tapped into, and especially we both coming from product side, will appreciate that creativity and innovation does not come from negative side of your mental health. It has to be, you have to be in a peaceful place, uh, at the right place in your mind, right, to create the value which the product needs to create. Or even if you are in services, you need to be in right mind to create those values, right? Even in COVID and all, if you think of it, that was the biggest challenge. But if people have given up, we would have seen more this than what we have seen. It was people who saw light in that, people who fought for that, people who thought that there will be a brighter day when we will be able to go out of your house just like that. That helps us overcome these challenges. So it's always stay resilient, be humble, stay grounded, always go back to your value system, right, and try to contribute and keep your mental side of health on positive side. That helps to go through struggles I mentioned, like so many struggles, and I think that has been the central theme, going through each of those struggles and coming on the right side of that struggle. So that is what I'll say on that.
Okay. And you mentioned some very important things that I would like to know more. And we just go into there. So you just mentioned that over years, and of course your experience, you learn and you understand better that consistency is the path, right? So
Right.
instead of, let's say, a bunch of things at once and then stop it, you could do just a little bit every day that will surpass everything else, which is true.
Right.
And I would like to understand more how the values are playing a role in it, because you had mentioned quite a few times, and it's very interesting because you always come with very good values. For example, you just mentioned that among everything, when you are struggling, the way you think, it means be positive, already make a big difference in how you are going to deal with that challenge that come in your life, along with resilience and also be humble.
Right. So I see the world, and I think the world has been like that, especially with humanity. There are like people who are builders who try to create, new things because they want to save this world for better. Then people who are consumers, they just consume those services, you know, play their part and all. And then you have people who are destructive in their mindset, who just doesn't like the things they are. They also want to save the world, but they sort of want to destroy things rather than create value for people of for the society in which they live in. If you see across the world, and be it um, across different religions, spirituality, or whatever belief system which you believe in the end, when you have to define good, all of them define good in the same way, and it goes to that basic definition, what positive thing which you can create out of it. Now, as an individual, each one of us can decide that we are going to do that every day and get better in that. And there's nothing like, if you go even in old proverbs, like Rome was not built in a single day. It is true, no civilization was built in a single day. America became superpower, it was not in a single day, right? And there was another superpower, and then World War happened, and then so civilization. If you see the human history, it's in thousands of years, different civilizations have grown and then gone to dust, and it's always this value system which plays. So there are positive forces which will try to create positive energy, positive things, right? You see people engineering advancements, medical advancements. It has actually improved our life like anything, and that's how what makes human the most intelligent species on this planet, at least. Now, being the most intelligent species, we can choose, right? We can choose to improve our world for better, or we can destroy it, like the whole concern, if you see, which is there on the other side, the global warming phenomena, which is the way the humans are consuming different natural resources, right? So it all boils down to that. It all boils down to what you actually on, even in your decisions. Like, say you go and buy, you know, food from a restaurant, right? Uh, or and what you consume as that food, that itself is like an you know whether you'll be contributing towards the whole carbon emission thing, the whole destruction of value system in terms of how the consumption of those resources are being, right, when you have populations starving in other places, right? So 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 the world has been same, I think. We individuals can always choose being the intelligent beings. It's only the thing is being more reflective on than your actions which you take. At least spare like 5 minutes, 10 minutes in a day. Think of what you did today. Could it have been better? Obviously, it could be better. We being human doer, right? Not all decisions will be in this, because at times we may not have thought it through. Sometimes you have to react in a minute to a question which is being raised inside your company, inside your profession, inside your personal life, right? But when you think through it, you'll realize, okay, this decision I could have been better. So next day, try and do that better, and that's how the things becomes or improve, I think. And we have to ensure that the good forces, as they say in Star Wars, let the forces be with you. So the good forces will be always in majority to ensure that we keep improving as humans and developing in spite of our differences and all, I think, and in spite of differences in culture and all. That is one thing which I've learned working in MNCs, across the world. That is one thing which I think ties all of us, right? So, and that is the biggest bridge between each one of us. If you believe in that, everyone can be a friend, because you're not competing with anyone. Everyone is working towards one goal. That's the whole idea. When we talk even about in product, we talk about OKRs and all those things. What you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure that the people are rowing in the same direction and not in opposite direction, and you are stuck in that place. And that happens with lots of economies, as I was talking earlier, right? Lots of countries, unfortunately, are in that space, because there the forces are working in different directions rather than one directions. They are not agreeing to what is the right thing to do. So most of the problem or most of the evil comes from that. um, that is what I'll say. If that is how I do things, as I said, like, it will not be 100% perfect, but I try to improve. So next day I'll be a better of me, and that is the only thing which I live by. So
Very good. Very good. And in here, as we spoke before, consistency is very important. However, the result of consistency is compounding. And as you mentioned, right now, in many places that you work for, actually we work for, there's a lot of misalignments. And
Yeah.
there the OKRs plays a role because you can focus all of that energy in some direction that most of people will gonna go into, and then you move away from that previous status that you was. This is very good, Amit. Thank you for it. How have your dreams and goals evolved over the years, Amit?
Okay, I think so. Dreams have been dynamic. They kept on evolving. Right from when you're a child, you want to be everything good which you see, right, when you're in school, and that is what was with me also. So everything good or nice which you used to see, you wanted to be that thing or that person, right? But then as you grow up, as you gain perspective, as you gain experiences, it starts shaping, taking shape. You start understanding, what you want to do of your life. As I was mentioning earlier, very early in my life, thanks to the experiences which I had or the upbringing which I had, I realized the importance of value system. I realized that I used to enjoy building things up, even in schools, right? So the most enjoyable moments were when I was doing things or when I was using things which they were teaching, but doing the practical out of it, like creating something out of it. Uh, and then as we grow and what happened, so I'll give you a different spin to it. So as I was growing up and in my teens and in my engineering days, so in my initial year of career, right, it was more of proving my own capabilities, right? It was like world wanted this, and I was trying to prove to them, okay, this is what I can do, and I can do this better, and you know and that actually created impact. Like, it helped me grow businesses, grow job opportunities, employment, and all. But if you look at my dreams now, it is much more broader, and it has actually flipped over. So rather than I going by what world wants, the way now I work and the way now I do things is, I try to save the world how I see it could be, right? So that's the biggest difference in terms of the dreams. But in terms of dream, it's always to create good values. It always to create that impact. Always to bring that small smile or touch as many lives which I can touch, either directly with people who I work in, companies, in personal life, friends, families, and all through the product or services which we do. So we were talking about COVID and all those things. Through our product and services, when you're touching those lives, how you can improve their lives when you're actually dealing with such situations. And every product does. Even if you think small features can actually uh, improve things which we may not realize, but does. Think of simple rating review features, which every websites have, but it's such an important feature, right, in product world. It helps people navigate, and if you do it right in that and thinking with that kind of a thing, you always create those impacts. So it's always to make whenever whoever I am touching improve their life, because that is what I live for. That gives me the happiness as such. Eventually, my overall dream is to create such kind of a legacy which will help inspire others, to follow the kind of value system which I have lived by, the integrity and innovation which comes out of that value system. Uh, Even when you are facing all these challenges, so eventually I would love to basically maybe guide people once I grow back and grow old and all. But yeah, that's the thing.
As you mentioned, your goals had evolved over the years, and you strive to have good impact, and along with that, of course, good values and deliveries, and impact as much lives as you can, not only with the work but with the products that you are building. And who has been the most influential person in your life, and in what way?
So there's not one person who has impacted, my life, but in each sphere I have people who has influenced it. So as I mentioned, like if you talk about ethics and value, it would be my own father who I, grew up seeing, and the decisions which he was taking in his career actually saved or shaped my ethics and value system, right? So it influenced a lot. Even today, if I have to take a decision which is an ethical dilemma, I'll actually, inside my head will mirror myself standing before my father and whether this decision, how he would have reacted to, or, and that helps me a lot. So I always go to that, mental image and doing that. Similarly, if you talk about, the common sense and grounded decision making, that I get influenced a lot by my mom and my wife. They are like, I think, the excellent ladies, the way they run the houses and all, bring the groundedness in all this morality and ethics. When you have to run a family, there has to be a common ground, and there has to be things which one has to actually respect in the world in which we live. Um but when it comes to say business and all, right? So in business, I've been inspired a lot, and as you even mentioned in my summary, I've been inspired by Kant's theory. I've read him a lot. So the ethical philosophy which he proposes, I subscribe by it. When it comes to economics and all, my views on economies, the way different economies should work, I'm very much influenced by Milton Friedman, the U.S. economist. Right. On product side, there have been many people who have influenced me, but I'll name like Marty Kagan, Rita McGrath, who have been actually really, really influential in terms of how you innovate, the discovery-driven innovation or value creation, the lean way of doing things, right, and not going all the way out when you don't know. And most of us, especially in product and startup world, deal with uncertainties. We venture into things which we don't know, and we have to create, especially it is true for anyone who builds things, right? Not only in product, but anyone who is a builder. He doesn't know that thing which is, he has an expectation, but to get that expectation, reach to that expectation, while taking whole resources along with you, be it your team, people, cost, money, and all capital which you invest into, and time obviously of your own and your people who are coming along with you, right? Their time of important time of life. So that's very important, right? So the approach which you need to take is very critical if you have to get your product or innovation right, and really those products needs to create value. So when it comes to product, those guys are the one who have been actually influencing me. So there are different people in different aspect. Even my young daughter influences me, right? So I started enjoying, as I was saying, small things and all, which is thanks to her. So yeah, she is also an influencer in my life. But there's not a single person as such. Different people in different space of life.
Understood. And you think that somehow this had also changed or, shaped the way that you define success? And do you feel you have achieved it?
So success for me, I don't see success for me as a definition. The way I define success is not the final goal or a final destination. Success for me is more of like a process. You actually experience success in a lot of moments, so it's not permanent. For me, success is not permanent. When you think of success, for example, when I saved jobs, right, that was success in that moment. When I could save 63 people jobs and was able to, restructure this company, that according to me was a success. It felt like success. Uh, Recently, when post surgery my daughter recovered and smiled for first time. That was for me a success, right? So those are the moments which felt like success, and I think there's no permanency of success. Uh, and that's why I don't think that you can ever achieve it, and I have not achieved it. But I lived those successful moments, right? So I've lived throughout my life those successful moments, and keep looking forward to those moments, creating those moments. So it's more of like you work on those moments to create those kinds of moments where you'll feel really satisfied, really happy about all the effort, all the energy which you put in, right? And feel satisfied from the outcome which you got, right? So that is for me success. Success is nothing like, okay, this guy is successful. I kind of disagree with that kind of statement. Everyone is successful in different moments of life, and everyone are unsuccessful also at different moments of life. It's just how you take it and how you grow on it, and how you keep creating new and new, such moments. So that is whole. That's why I said success more of like a process where you try to create those good moments which will feel like success, right? So that is what for me is success as such.
Um, I have heard from other people who have been part of the business, and one of them mentioned that if you commit yourself to be, let's say, a good father, you are a successful person because commit yourself to it. You are doing and working out on that consistently and change yourself. So exactly as you mentioned, success is not about, oh, I am the top of the company or I got money or just build my dream house or car or whatever. No, that's not success. People
Right.
say it is, but in a financial way. But there's no relation with, as you mentioned, the moments that you have in life that will never come back, and you have that moment to enjoy, to feel happy, to feel good about it. It's not
I
something
agree
that
actually. Again, when it comes to see, even if people who are financially successful, if you were to ask them, do you feel successful? I'm sure they will not talk about that. Okay, they have become this billionaire, and that is when they felt successful, right? I don't think it's more of like other people telling that this is success rather than the person himself, right? Who is actually following that journey. He'll always go back to his journey, those moments in which he felt that okay, he was successful. And it could be even at the start of the career, you'll be surprised like people who are like giants, right, in their industry, and they will go back all the way when they really felt successful. That joy of being successful, right? Did that first product or first company which they founded and the way things work, they have emotional attachments to that, right? And they will say, hey, that was a successful moment. So, so that is how it is. It's always the third parties who say, okay, this guy is even for financially, and I think it's really a media thing which is there where we typecast people. Okay, these people are socially success, and these people are not successful, which is a fallacy. I think everyone is successful in different moments. We may have more or less moments, in our life, depending on how we have approached our life. But I think everyone experiences it.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that. And how has your perception of yourself changed over the years? As you mentioned,
Mm.
there's where you are a fresh grad, there's the time that you are a child, there's the time that you are already a CEO, and
So as a person, as I was saying, like as a child and all, obviously you're very curious. You want to know everything, and you want to be everything. So that is what a child is. As you grow, you start realizing what you don't know, thanks to the knowledge which you acquire. Right? You start to appreciate your weaknesses, and you also start to appreciate, other people around you who actually contribute to your shortcomings, and that's where the whole social structure builds around a child. So when you are young, you are most likely dependent only on your mom and dad and maybe your siblings and all. As you grow up and you go into society, you realize, hey, I may not do all the things which I'm good at. uh, I may need people, and I have to work with them. So that's where your social this thing starts stepping up. But eventually, I think at a broader level, and as I was talking earlier, you realize that you know, we are maybe in this big universe, an infinite universe, right? We are even smaller than a speck, right? I don't know if you have watched that movie. It's a very funny movie, a children's movie, Horton's Hears a Who. It's so we are, most likely we are those who's, right? One of those who's in that speck, right? And that is very important to understand. Even if you are a CEO, you have to understand. Even if you are like leading a nation, you are, a political leader. You are leading, multiple companies, sports team, and all. You need to understand that, and that brings humbleness in you. But that also opens up, immense potential in terms of how little things, adds up. We talked about the compounding effect, how everyone contributes, because it's like a positive sum game, right? Everyone, when they start working on, there's no one who is losing in that. Normally the whole idea which is sold is, someone is losing, then only the other one gains. I do not believe in that. I believe everyone gains when, people start supporting each other. That's the basic rule of any market or any, even the social relationship. When you contribute wholeheartedly in a positive way, uh, to things in which you believe, things on which you're working on, that is what it creates. So you should always remember that you are maybe a small who on that speck, but in that on that speck also, you're trying to, and that who, there was a king and all, I was trying to save his whole thing, right? And then there was an elephant who was actually trying to hold that speck. So it's something like that. So there are things which you cannot control, and that's all okay. It all comes down to how you react to those challenges and how you contribute to those things. So become humble. Don't overstress on your individuality. Appreciate how you play part in the whole grander scheme of things. And yes, we all are important, right? So each one of us, you or me, define when we are interacting, we are, each one of us are learning from each other. It's not like, I am not learning and you are also experiencing, I am also experiencing. And we'll take things out of this talk, or people who would be listening this, right, they will be taking something out of this talk. So we're reaching out to people and changing their lives already when we are talking and we are sharing our ideas, right, and hopefully for good. So that is how we should look at our things. That is how I think of myself. I don't place a lot of importance on now my own individual self, which as a child I used to. That is the change, as I said. But then on the other hand, I have started, whatever I think can better thing, I have started taking control rather than, going through the flow because someone has said so. Um, Thanks to all the experiences and knowledge and, things which you have gained when you reach to your 40s or, the mid-age. So that is what I think has been the difference of my own perception in myself growing up till date. I'm sure that will keep on changing and become, the experiences and all makes you more wiser. And as I was saying, someday it's like experiences like a comb, they say in India, and there's a joke when you go bald, right? So you cannot use the comb, but you created the comb, and hopefully that can be passed to the next generation so that they don't have to start from scratch. That is what happens even in product and technology and all, and the whole, exponential growth comes from that, right? When we talk about the whole exponential growth which technology is seeing, it comes from that. We are all sitting on people who have worked harder previous to us, the previous generation, and we have to respect that. uh, Even when we are walking into, say, a new company, and there may be some guy who would have worked before us, right? Because it's not always you are starting afresh. But if you're walking into and set up or a well organized company, and you're replacing someone, always respect the person who was before you, even if, you know whatever his decision may not have been that much successful. You must be respected because whatever is there because of him, right? And then you can build upon that. So that is how one should look at it.
Yes, yes. And I agree with you. And just one thing that how do you remember? Actually, many, and they are really good ones. One is that we need each other's. So not only support, but have a good relationship is important because we serve to each other's
Right,
since the day until the day you're gone. We cannot do anything, just all by ourselves. It doesn't work like that,
right,
including today, the current landscape. And the another thing is that yes, you are important as you just mentioned, and just to help out people that is listening to us now. Your skills are replaceable. People can
correct,
learn, people can develop, people can master skills, but you are the most important one. You cannot be replaced. You have
right,
family, mother, have parents. You are part of the society and you are part of a community, most of all. You are essential for all our people that every single day wake up and sleep thinking about you. And that dissociation between, what you do for a living, let's talk about work, and who you are, no need to be splitted, but it's important that you understand the difference about that. You are
right,
not replaced very far. Your skills is something else, and of course, your skills also change over time.
right. No, I absolutely agree. I think that is a lot to be focused on, given in current world. Like people are just changing skills like crazy, but one has to understand that most of the skills can be learned, right? We ourselves, if we look into our example and we are talking about, like I was talking about my own history, right? I come from sciences, went into biomedical and all. These are skill sets which you learn, which you go, you read, you can grab, you can watch certain videos and all this AI blockchain which is now dominating. Some after say 4 5 years there may be another technology which will start them down. And you can learn them. How much time it takes? Maybe 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Yeah. Uh, what you cannot learn in that sort of time is develop in that sort of time is your own aptitude, right? Your own moral, ethical foundation based on which you will take decisions, because those decisions shape what you will build, right? Technology will only translate those things, right? But when you're solving even problem, and product, as we say, every problem can be solved in multiple ways. There's no right or wrong answer, right? And that's where your decision making skills come. No one can teach that. AI cannot replace that, right? uh, uh, what And that is where actually, and that is also something which you cannot learn in a day. That is something is like an habit which you have to cultivate over the years, right? It has to be part of your personal professional life, because we are the same. I always believe that we are the same person who is in office and in our personal life. We are not the two different person. uh, this debate also happens in B2B products and B2C products. But I say, hey, the consumer who actually is a B2B product, right, is also using B2C products. So he's exposed to whatever you're talking about, right? So how can you treat differently a B2B product and B2C product? The user experience, the customer experience has to be, uniform. uh, and that why that has to be there, why that differences comes, is with, especially with young generation or people who are new to product and all. You will see in that they stress a lot on the bookish knowledge, the skills which they may have acquired, and ignore the value system, the moral campus, the basic foundation on which the decision making has to be done, right? That's more important. That takes years. So observe, practice, reflect, and then build, and then again repeat that to become better. And that is not a day job. It is a continuous process which keeps on happening.
Yes. And how do you want to be remembered?
Someone who uh, added something in everyone's life. I think whoever came in touch with me, I think if I had a positive impact, positive spin, even for a second, to people who interacted with me in this life, that was worth living. As I said, like I always go back when I was almost killed, right? That is like 7 people died on that day. I heard, and the gun cells going and whoozing across my ear, and also. So that day I realized that you cannot obviously control when will you die and this thing. But what you could be remembered as, and that is true for everyone, right? People who are also and from different societal or stratas of our population, right? Be it poor, be it middle class, successful, which are portrayed as successful people, or leading big businesses or even countries. It's always comes down to how they touched different lives. People who are always who added value, who added positivity in the society in which they live, are always remembered as kind people and remembered in good way, right? And they cross borders. They are like global leaders. They are global influencers. Uh, and people who have, as I said earlier, that who destroy values and all, are always history will always remember them, as someone who destroyed value, didn't added it anything to the society, right? So where the whole society remembers you like that. That is what is the common knowledge, which I think I will also like to be remembered as someone who contributed to people who I worked with, people who I lived with, the people who I touched with my products or services. That I at least solved something or made things better for them in some small way. I think that would be a good remembrance, and that is, will be a worthwhile life to live. So that is how I think it should end for me. But yeah, we can go on that because it's more of a philosophical question. But yeah, that is how I always feel from that moment on, and that is how I've been even actually thinking even during COVID and all. When I stuck, you have this fear that if I get stuck, I get infected, and I say if I die here in quarantine or this thing, right? My families will not be even able to see me or my body because that is what was the protocol like. But at least they will remember me in the things which I did, or my people who I worked with, or employees who I worked with. They will remember me. Okay, this is the positive, and that is how you should be remembered for. It's not be remembered for something which you did bad, or you were harsh or rude to someone. No one wants to be remembered like that, right? So that is what is the legacy which you like to live for. All right, leave behind. Products, technologies we work with, we know, but most of these products also will get outdated eventually, and will be replaced and maybe even forgotten. All right, but as the kindness and it's the way we touched each other, that is what I think people will live with through the years.
Yes, this is very well said, and very interesting because you shared with us also your life experience and, as you mentioned before, the nearly death experience, which I'm very glad you are here with us. And
Yeah.
what advice would you give to the younger generation?
Mhm. Yeah, same as we have been. I think we have been talking about focus on building your aptitude. You know, but when you're focusing, you should always focus on the right things, the right foundations for your morality, your ethical good and right. What is good, what is wrong. These things should be learned first. All the skill sets can be learned quickly. Don't focus on that. That you can acquire. Be flexible about them. Be always open about them. Don't be rigid about it. I see lots of youngsters being rigid about certain options in their career. Life is not, a single day. This thing. We in India play cricket, and now the soccer version is much more popular with younger generation. But people who are like of our age still enjoy the Test cricket, which is a 5 day affair where each player gets two chances, right? It's very similar to life, and I used to play cricket, so I take a lot of inspiration from that, right? Like in life is not like, okay, today you are successful, tomorrow you'll be failure. You'll keep getting chances. You have to keep looking for those opportunities. The only way you will eventually have those successful moments in your life is by being disciplined, being focused on right value system, on deciding what is right, standing your ground. Sometimes you lose because you actually took those decisions, in short term you'll feel like you're losing, right? But then stand your ground, stand for something which you believe in. That's very important. If you don't do that, then there's no difference between you and someone else. So yeah, focus, as I said, focus on creating values for others. Success will follow, however you define it, be it material success, physical success, economical, financial success, that will follow. That is a side product. But focus building on your attitude more than aptitude. Aptitude, you can do it in short term. Attitude takes years. Just to quickly, as you summarized, right now I've been actually working on a stealth project, which I call as Amifi. Um, Amifi is a short form of Amicus Finance, and amicus is a Latin word meaning friend, right? So I wanted to actually create a product which can help people, juggle through their personal finances. So I see lots of applications, lots of sophisticated tools which are available for traders, for advanced financial people, for banking guys, and all. But for common masses, there is not a single tool, a single application which helps them navigate the complex world of finances. They see all these diagrams on the TV, or media or social channels like Telegram, Twitter, and all, right? Follow. So as I was explaining that, with lots of noise, with lots of social influences which has come on various social channels, be it Twitter, Telegram, YouTube's, financial pundits advising people of different ways of handling their personal finances. And when I say personal finances, for common people, it means managing their expenses, managing their savings, and then finding ways to invest those savings for their future goals, right? And then there are multiple products which different companies, different financial systems, banks sell to those guys, right? So the common people are always lost, and I realized that way back when I was in COVID, and when I had little time, and I was also advising few of my family and friends on their investment and all. So I decided the only way to handle that is by creating some sort of application which will bring trust back into the system, which will help them understand, what these financial gurus are talking about, because sometimes it all blows up from their on top of their head. So the whole idea of MFI is, the MFI just aims to be a finance friend, helps people navigate or simplify their personal financial decisions, gives them the insight in terms of how they're expending, what items they're expending, how they can improve their expenditure habit, inculcate good habits in their financial spending. So the whole idea from technology point of view is to use tools like AI, right, to create those predictive insights into your expenditure habits and how you can improve that. Uh, Simplistic models which can actually translate those complex, financial movements if you're actually investing into stocks, sales, forex, right, cryptos, right, give you the right signals, and you can choose and decide what kind of investment philosophy you want to follow, and have some sort of a guidance on that, or what those philosophy means. Like if you're a value investor, what does that mean? Or if you're a growth investor, what does that mean, right? And what kind of risk which you're talking about, because most of the applications ask those questions, but Frankly, everyone wants high return and they say, hey, I want to take huge risk. But when they lose, actually they didn't want it to take that huge risk. So that's the problem. So instead of asking those, I think those idiotic question is more of like, you know, everyone and the common people doesn't want to take risk. Frankly, they want to take the minimum risk for the highest return. And that is the right advice which people should be giving. But for whatever biases which these influencers have, so remove that biases. So bring technology. The technology decide. I do not decide. I just give you those parameters in a very simple term. You don't need to be a financial expert. You can set your notifications on when you want to be alerted. I don't want to, pry on your privacy issues. And then basically, I wanted to gamify this whole experience. So I want to inculcate a good habit. We all earn, but we hardly give like 5 minutes on of our day, or even in a month. I did a survey and it was surprising. More than 82% people in that survey spend less than 1 hour in a week on their financial expenses, investments, savings. Now, this I want to change, as I said. This I said needs to change, and I want to gamify this. So I'm gonna use, a model which I recently wrote about, which is an X2E model, which basically, rewards people to being financially disciplined. It's something like being healthy, right? So if you want to be healthy, every day if you do this exercises, you'll become healthy, and the application rewards you when you do. You get certain rewards when you do, so that you become that disciplined. Similarly, for financial healthiness or financial health, I want to create something similar to that in the financial ecosystem. So this application is supposed to do or help you simplify your expenses, your savings, and help you navigate the complex world of investment. It will not advise you on whether you should buy, sell, or hold. Rather, what it will do is it will help you understand complexity and choose for yourself whether you want to based on those realities in simple terms in your own language, right? So also I want to break those language barriers. India is a multi-language country, so that is a plus for me because if you are building any product for India, you have to be multilingual. But that actually opens the door for the global thing, because the financial language is same across the globe, and the assets and all are also very similar, right? It's just that educate people on those right signals when they need to invest, and let them decide if they still want to invest or not. Don't influence those decisions. The application need not say whether you need to buy. It should educate you. These are the signals. Now it's your call whether you want to take that decision or not. So become disciplined in terms of spending, increase your savings, and then become knowledgeable about when you're deciding to invest. That is what I plan to do with Amifi. I'm still in the early phase. You know, I'm still working on the product and business model as such. I've just hired a couple of resources, still to hire more on the engineering part. But I target to create an MVP maybe in next 90 to 100 days. That is what I'm looking forward to. The first application should hit market sometime in next year, April, March time, right? So that is where I am. The last company which I was working with, Maventech Labs, I've already taken a leave from that. Now mostly there as a non-executive shareholder. I'm still assisting with them with some regular, transitioning work, but I'm not anymore in the executive role as I was. So that's where I am. I'm actually something into similar space as you mentioned yourself, right? So I decided actually like 5 6 months back that it was a time to bring, a balance in my own life, but also to contribute to people who I see are doing wrong. So in India, there has been a bloom in terms of fintech products and all. So just wanted to change that perception. I didn't see a single product which was trying to answer. And I saw that a global phenomena. So I being based out of Qatar, I was actually interviewing people, and most of them are expats, and I was like listening the same thing. I was really shocked The 82% people, you're not spending, you're earning all this thing and you don't spend even an hour in a week. So that shows how, and everyone wanted to improve on it, but then they don't have time, and it's understandable because it's very complex. Even when they understand, since you are not actually repeating yourself, you're not an expert in that, and still you make those mistakes, right? So